going? Oh, she must have went to unmute and then accidentally hit the other button. But so
we are all set. So we're live. Over to you, Sean.
oh, great. Well, we have to wait just a second for Yasmina to come back. I think she accidentally exited, but oh, there we go. There we go. Oh, some technical issues. Seems to have dropped the call again. How about you, Andrea and Alicia? How's it going?
Good. Doing okay over there. Here, how about yourself?
I'm good. Andrea?
I'm good. I just finished up a really great class, and often we struggle with getting students to get right into doing great critiques and discussions about work, but this group is amazing, so that's exciting, and it balances out the complete ridiculous busyness of everything else.
Right. I see we have Yasmina back. How's it going?
Sorry, I didn't mean to disconnect, but somehow I disconnected.
No worries, no worries.
Instead of unmuting, I disconnected.
And we have
So,
Donna joining us.
very busy. Some grant applications.
Absolutely. Busy season there's a number of open calls right now. And I
was just gonna say, Sean, we're all set, we're live. So
okay, great.
Yep, we're good to go. And
just to point out to everybody too, we have Councillor Donna Hilsinger on the phone here as well, if you wanted to say hi, Donna.
Hi, everyone.
Okay, so let's begin with the adoption of the minutes from the previous meeting. So anybody who was at that meeting can move or second the motion. If you weren't, you can just refrain from voting on it, or you can note your abstention if you want. Do I have a mover for the minutes? Moved by Heather, seconded by Yasmina. All those in favor? Well, first of all, is there any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor, please remain silent. Anybody opposed, please indicate so in the chat or open your mic. All right, the minutes are carried. Declaration of any pecuniary interests. If you have any such interest, please indicate so now. I'll just do a discrete count to 3 in my head, and then we'll move on, unless there's somebody that notes something. Seeing none, move to the adoption of the agenda. So on the agenda package, you can see the usual headings, including business arising, subcommittee reports, new business, ACAP applications, and so on. So the main items for today include just the finalization of the review of the cultural policy and potentially the finalization of the public art policy, or at least the discussion around the public art policy. Then we have just a reminder of the applications for ACAP closing on October 29th. And those are the main items for today. Any amendments or suggested changes? Could I have a mover for the agenda? Moved by Alicia, seconded by Andrea. All those in favor, please remain silent. Anybody opposed, indicate so in the chat or open your mic to speak. The agenda passes. The next item is business arising from the previous minutes. I'm going to defer to Virginia here, but I don't think that we have any business arising other than the next phases in the subcommittee reports. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, just the 2 policies. Great.
So we'll move on to item number 5, subcommittee or task force updates. The first one is cultural policy. So you'll Those of you who were present last month, I can't believe it's been a month, will recall that the draft cultural policy incorporating many of the suggestions that well, first of the subcommittee and then later of independent members has been appended here and it was circulated last month. If there were any additional suggestions or revisions, we asked that you please forward those to Virginia or Todd. Virginia, were there any items that came in for discussion?
Yes, so the one major addition came from the public art policy.
Mhm.
So from a consistency standpoint, we needed to make sure that that clause flowed up, and it was with regards to funding for the cultural policy. And it's an item 3.3.1, which is on page 7. The change was previously we had it insured for the dedication of up to 1%. The public art policy task force was recommending the dedication of 1% of the total. So that particular clause had to flow up for consistency. So that is the one change that you'll note from what you previously saw at the meeting prior to that.
Sorry, can you tell me the page again?
It's page 14 of your agenda, 15 of your agenda package. Sorry, I was page 7 of the
No
cultural.
worries, I realized there was a discrepancy there and
Yeah.
then I forgot where you had indicated.
Yeah.
And 3.4 point.
3.3.1, which is at the very top of the page.
Okay. The cultural policy ensures for the dedication of 1% of the total construction and or renovation costs of public facilities, including where appropriate major municipal infrastructure projects toward the commissioning and installation of art or other cultural activities, whereas the integral part of the building or site, it is appropriate. Otherwise, allocated funds shall either be directed towards similar use in alternative facilities based on recommendations of city staff and the CBC, go to the Community Development Fund, Arts and Culture, or to the City of Sault Ste. Marie Cultural Endowment Trust Fund. So that's the new clause. Brent, did you want to speak to this?
Thanks, Sean. Appreciate having the opportunity. We spoke with this from a staff recommendation standpoint and just some things just for consideration for the committee. In the past, with respect to the new committee, there is $40,000 available per year now for public art that wasn't in place prior, which is great. And we are looking to try to get submission just for consideration on any new builds that may come forward, such as potential a fire hall, police station. Say that would be an example of $25 million, for example. So that could amount to potentially $250,000 for one build, which is great. But at the same time, if this goes forward to council, it might have a challenge, not saying it would. What I was thinking from a strategic approach, speaking with Virginia here and the team, is that we could potentially say 1% up to 50,000 or 75,000, somewhere along that lines. And then that might be something that might be more acceptable for this go around potentially. And that way you would have an extra $50,000 or $75,000 just for that build. And then and the focus would be new construction. There was some wording around renovation. So if you're renovating a building and it's just a roof, does that really qualify, or is it more for expanding on space for a build as opposed to just doing normal repairs on a building? So there could be some contention around there, but we're trying to set it up so the committee will have access to more funds. I think that's what the goal is for this initiative, and this might set it up a little bit better. So I just wanted to throw that out there, because if you just put 1% on a build, it could be quite substantial, 300,000, 250,000, which might not be part of the original budget. But at the same time, this, if you put 1% up to a certain amount, whatever the committee's, maybe 50, 75,000, it might be a bit more easy to get it through the request. That's the only thing that we really had as a suggestion. And then you'd have that amount, say 50 or 75 on top of the 40 whenever a build takes place. So just food for thought, for consideration.
Are there any comments on what was shared? Andrea?
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious what other sort of municipal allotments for public builds are, because typically looking at most commissions for major public buildings by municipalities, the budgets usually are $200 to $300,000. So, you know, getting into 50,000, 75,000 for a public artwork is, you know, really, if you're wanting to attract like national caliber work or to do something, you know, that's substantial to the size of, you know, a building that's going to be a multi-million-dollar building, usually, you know, you need to have that $200,000 or $300,000 budget for the public art. So, you know, I would be in favor of trying to keep it if at all possible, because if this is in the policy, then when people start, or when projects start budgeting for that build, they have to just budget it into it as part of the project. If it's not possible, I understand, but I think we should be aiming for higher or have a clause for a renovation. But I wouldn't want to see that percentage dropped just for a larger scale building, personally.
Any other comments?
Yeah, it's Lana. I would not be in favor of changing that clause. I will, when does this go to council? Can somebody remind me for approval?
Hi, Donna, it's Virginia. I have to, so once we go through the process with the committee and for the resolutions, ideally, I'd like to take both the cultural policy and the public art policy to council at the same time. I was hoping that I'd be able to target a meeting in November. Also trying to make sure that I'm not gonna, it's obviously not gonna go during budget discussions, but want to make sure that we're getting it there sometime in November so that we get that put through, because we don't have very many meetings. That's my hopeful target.
Brent, did you have something related to the timing?
Yeah, just on that. So just to kind of answer in two things. So there's two council meetings in November, November 15th and November 29th. So those would be the two dates that Virginia could bring that forward in advance of the budget deliberation in December. And I don't, hopefully I didn't come across saying that I don't want us to come for money. All I was saying that is food for thought, just for recommendation, strategic approach. So I'm not against having more money for this to be put aside. It's just saying strategically, it might be a lot for some to accept, but I know Donna's a big champion as well. So I just wanted to put that as an option, saying that it might be a big ask, and just temper expectations. And that's all why we recommended it. Possibly that might be another avenue if this weren't to be the way you wanted to go. That's all.
Well, here's my thinking. If we have time, I just think we've been so bereft of funds to do any of this that we need, and I want to get some clarification on the clause right now, actually, as part of this. So, but we've just been so bereft of funds for so long, and we need money to make investments that are going to, you know, be significant, and that we can afford to pay what people should be paid to create their art, and for us to showcase their art, and for us to be creative about it, and so on. Let me ask a question though. We have the way it's written now, it says 1% that goes into each of those projects. Like, so let's say it's a big capital project and it's worth $10 million and 1% is $100,000, right? That has to go into that project, or $100,000 goes into a fund that funds public art in the public realm, like city funded public art. Or does it have to go to that project, or how's it written right now?
As it reads now, it would go into either. So if they can't, if the build for some reason, either the builder chooses not to, or it's not practical for whatever reason, then they would have to donate the equivalent money to the, looks like either Yeah, the community just fund. Is that correct, Virginia?
Yeah, so that's the way that reads now. So say, for example, there was a build and the piece or whatever is 40,000. You could redirect 60,000 to another project into that fund for the committee to look at using elsewhere. So you do have the option to use it all in one build or potentially split it and put it into the Community Development Arts and Culture Fund and earmark it for future public art.
Okay, okay. So I really want to keep it the way that it is, and I will take the temperature. I need 5 other people to vote for it. Okay, I'm one, and we need 5 more. So if we have time, I'll see what I can do about getting at least the support that's enough to pass it. I would hope that I would be able to get everyone's support, but I will work on that. Before, Brent, I appreciate your caution, but before we go back, I want to see if we can get this done.
Appreciate that. Just want to put that out there. It could be a challenge, and just want to make sure that you're aware of it. That's all. So. Yeah.
Thanks. I just see Andrea has been trying to get in here. Andrea?
Yeah, I guess just a couple things, because I think as a committee in some of these other financial discussions, we've said that our strategy has been to ask for more to get us up to parity, not to undercut what we believe we should be asking for, because we don't think it will be passed. So if it ends up having to go lower, that's fine, but we have to ask for what we think is the appropriate amount. Donna, I also wanted to ask, is it useful for you if I gather up examples of different public art in other municipalities, and where they're obviously operating on the same sort of municipal funding allocation, because there's lots of examples. Would that be useful at all? Or
Donna, are you?
Oh, sorry, I didn't know if I was for me to respond.
Well, yes, sorry.
Yeah, what I'm sure, it can't hurt. It can't hurt. We could do those things, sort of simultaneously, and if that's acceptable to everyone, and I appreciate Andrea offering to help, because those are the kinds of comparisons actually that will help me make the argument. I'm pretty sure I know 3 to 4 counselors that I'm fairly sure would be completely in favor of this approach. Others I would have to speak to, but the more we can compare ourselves and say, we, in comparison to other communities of our size, et cetera, we are, whatever the comparison is, we think we're pretty far behind. And if those numbers show that, then, that's a good example to have to help make the case for people who wouldn't automatically, be in favor of something like that.
Thanks, Donna. I just want to check in, especially with Heather, Yasmina, Alicia, and Jane, who's joined us as well, to see if you have any comments or insights that you'd like to share here.
I'll go first. I agree that we should not ask for less, because if you think about it, if it is a $10 million build, what is 100,000 in that? It's really small. 1% is not large. And I think Andrea made a comment that the good quality art is going to cost that. And if you don't ask for that, we'll never get it. Mm-hmm. Who is going to give it to us without asking? Nobody. Right. So, all that can happen is we don't get it, but then we ask again.
Yeah.
So I just think that art has been so neglected for so many years that we either go full speed and go bold, or we don't.
Thanks, all. Yeah, and I think, Jane, Alicia, or Heather, do any of you have additional comments that you'd like to share?
I have nothing further at this time. Thanks.
No problem.
I'm agreeing with everybody. So I have no comments to add to that.
Great. Yeah, I personally as well, I think it's best to leave it as is, and if council defeats the policy and some of the rationale for that's given as the 1%, then we can revisit a discussion. Although I would think that even $75,000 far cap in those circumstances, but I would hope that council would see the value in just accepting the 1% figure here. This has been quite some time that it's sat at zero up to 1%, which is actually a ceiling rather than a floor. And I think what we need is a floor. And I see in the chat, my apologies, Jane, I didn't realize the audio wasn't working well for you, but she notes that I am in agreement with what has been discussed as well. Okay, so it seems like we're in pretty unanimous agreement, I guess, that we accept the revised, at least this section as is. Were there any other modifications that that came in since last review, Virginia?
No, it was more just wordsmithing some minor changes. That was the one that had the most change as far as the context or yeah, the meat of it.
Great. Well, I think with that, I'm excited to say we can entertain a motion to adopt the cultural policy as presented and recommended to council for adoption. Is there a mover for the for this motion? A move by Andrea, seconded by oh wow, it's a tie. Either Heather or Alicia. All right. All those in favor, please remain silent. Anybody opposed or abstaining, please indicate so in the chat or open your mic to speak. The motion carries. So congratulations, everybody. We have finished for now the review of the cultural policy. So I know sometimes these things don't feel like big deals, but this is, correct me if I'm wrong, Virginia, this is one of very few times where we've done this. Is that correct?
Very few times I've had to do it. But yeah, this is the second time we've brought an update as far as the cultural policy during my time frame in this position. So yeah, it's the second time I think in 7 years. So yeah, so this is exciting.
All right, so the next item on the agenda is the public art policy. Oh, sorry. Yes, the next item is public art policy. That's on pages 21 to 37 of your agenda package. Virginia, I don't know if you'd like to introduce or motivate the discussion around the public art policy or provide some context.
Sure. Yeah. First, I'd like to thank all of the task force members for all of their input and work on it. We've had some great discussions as we worked through this. Todd did spend a fair amount of time doing a lot of background research, getting the document pulled together. And yeah, I think that I'm very pleased with the end result. I'm sure Jasmina and Donna who also are part of the committee, can weigh in as well. Katie's not here right now, but yeah, so overall, you know, it covers off everything from how we've defined public art, the types, our focus areas, and then it goes right into the statement of policy, how it'll be funded, and then what we do from a maintenance standpoint, acquisition, site selection. So it covers off, I think, the full range of you know, different things that may arise as we start to acquire public art and maintain it, as we potentially take on donations. From here too, and just so the committee knows, there are going to be a number of forms. So once the policy is adopted, we've got a number of forms and different other supporting pieces that are going to have to be developed. Jasmine and Todd have already started talking about what some of those additional components are going to look like that will support this policy. Jasmina, Donna, I'm not sure if you have anything else you'd like to add in.
I don't have anything. You summarized what we did, Virginia. Thank you.
Yasmina?
Yeah, thanks, Virginia. And I think that it is a good document. So I don't have anything to add. You did summarize everything, and I'm pleased with the end result. So that's all. We did our best. And this is all I will say is this is, I believe, the very first public art policy.
It is. It is. And so even bigger congratulations for this this very significant move. I guess we'll...
Todd, it's Donna. Can I just add one thing?
Tom's not here, but yes, you can.
Oh, thank you. Sorry. I want to just say thank you. Jasmina's contribution to this policy, relevant to all of it, but in particular her expertise around purchasing, maintaining, disposal, and other types of procedures and policies that are standards in the industry was very, very important to help us put this together. And I want to make sure everybody understands that. It was that's it.
Thanks, Donna. That's very thoughtful. And thank you, Yasmina, for...
Thank you, Donna.
Now, I just want to check in with Virginia in terms of process. Are we voting on this today, or is this a first presentation for comment?
If everybody on the committee is comfortable with it and had a chance to review it, then we can move forward with a recommendation today. And then I would take both of the policies then to council in November. But again, that depends on the comfort level of the other members that weren't part of that task force if they would like to move forward with that.
Great. Maybe what we'll do is we'll entertain a motion to adopt, but then in our discussion period, if people want to wait, we can, but we'll start with a motion. Could I have a mover to accept the public art policy and refer it to council for adoption? Moved by Jane, seconded by... Anybody? Oh, it's Andrea. All right. So now we're in the discussion phase of the motion. Are there any? Is there any discussion related to the document as it's been circulated in your agenda package? Any suggested revisions? Any items that you were curious about? Any general comments as well are welcome.
It's Heather. It's very thorough, and I appreciate that. Like it is. Like everything I think they could possibly think of has been touched on in this, and I really appreciate the document. It's great.
Thanks, Heather. Andrea? Oh, sorry. Was that a hand, or was that just you? We're not yet. Okay.
I guess there was just in some areas where there's definitions. I do worry about about the definitions of what can constitute a public art, or the types of locations. It could end up precluding some types of work from existing, but I think but it does say include but are not limited to. So I think it's okay. I'm not worried.
Great. And well, before I say anything, anything else? Sorry, I'm not sure if... Okay, so Alicia is nodding no. I thought you might have raised your hand, but that was something else. Okay. Jane or Yasmina or Donna?
In answer to Andrea's point, we had a lot. Virginia Virginia, Todd, Katie, Jasmina, we had a lot of discussion about the definitions to make sure that it was inclusive and it was clear and we didn't leave any room for gray and all of that. So, but if you see anything that we might have, I know you said it looks good, but like we talked about that a lot, just so because it is very important. We completely agree.
I think we ran into the same thing with the cultural policy too, just wanting to make sure that, yeah, definitions were inclusive. But yeah, it looks really thorough and yeah, amazing work. Thank you.
All right.
It's comprehensive and I don't have anything else to add. Thank you for everyone who participated in doing it.
Thanks, Jane. And one thing, the Cultural Vitality Committee itself weighs in on some of, or at least some aspects of location and form. Is that correct?
Yeah, so if there was, as we're moving forward with, starting to put more public art in place, that would be something where we would be engaging the Cultural Vitality Committee, but also, looking at it from an operational standpoint as well. So it'll be that balance between, cities where those locations are, also what's owned on city property. We also talked about, sometimes it may happen on, there may be a lease agreement in the case, which we have with the art gallery. So we've had that covered off as well. So it kind of opens up a lot of different locations.
Yes. Yeah, I also want to echo what Jane and Heather have said. Just, I was really impressed by how comprehensive it is. In any case, is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I think we can move to a vote. All those in favor, please remain silent. Anybody opposed or abstaining, please indicate so with the chat or open your mic to speak. That carries unanimously. Congratulations, everybody, and congratulations, committee, on our first ever public art policy for the city of Sault Ste. Marie. So everyone should feel very, especially I want to thank all of the members who have volunteered on these committees and who've taken time, even if you weren't on the subcommittees or task forces, if you were reviewing the documents, sending in comments or not, just doing your due diligence. This is both of these documents are and policies now are really significant for the city and have created a real framework to boost arts and culture in the community. So thank you. All right, the next item on the agenda is new business. So first among new business is the ACAP applications. Virginia, did you want to speak to this?
Just a reminder that the applications are closing on the 29th. Todd did conduct a couple workshops, so we did have some participants that were, kind of getting help walking him through. I know a number of groups have reached out to him just to, ask questions and that. So that's continuing on for the next week and a half, I guess, when those applications close. So that's going to actually give us a little bit more time this year to assemble all those applications and then hopefully get all the recommendations done earlier than what we've had in the past, where the groups are waiting until the following, February before they know if they're getting funding or not. So this will hopefully help them in planning their activities for the new year.
That's fantastic. Are there any discussion points? Any questions?
Oh, I just wanted to know, how was the turnout at the workshops? Did you find there were a lot of new groups or individuals? Did you find that there were some people that maybe in the past hadn't been successful that were now coming out and seeing the changes of the things that they need to do?
I know Todd mentioned, I didn't get a list of who was in attendance, but I know that there were some new people that were interested and some individuals that were interested in applying. He has had a number of people reaching out to him. So I think that there's a really good chance we'll see some new faces that are making applications this year. So looking forward to seeing how all of that takes shape.
Thanks, Virginia. Any other questions or comments? Okay, none. Well, again, I just want to congratulate you on all the advances on the ECAP process. It's really great to see, and I know that so many community members and artist groups are going to really benefit from this. I guess we'll move on to item number 7, correspondence, if there is any. Is there?
No, we don't have any correspondence. I just realized I did forget to mention something.
Sure.
The Community Recognition Award. I'm in the process of trying to make plans for that right now. It'll probably be similar to what it was last year. So I'm just trying to get all of that sorted. So you'll be receiving some more information probably within the next 2 weeks with a date and what that will look like. But we'll be able to have more people than we were last year because we're in a much better situation than what our numbers were last fall. So yeah, so stay tuned.
Wonderful. Thank you. All right, so that leaves us at item number 8. So our next meeting, which is currently scheduled for November 17th, 2021. Unless there's any discussion around that, we will proceed to our adjournment. Or actually, sorry, maybe I didn't really broach this under new business. I should have created a space to just open the floor for any points that anybody wanted to bring up regardless as to whether it was on the agenda, just any new business that people wanted to bring forward. I see some heads shaking no. All right, well, then let's move on to adjournment. Mover, who would like to move our adjournment? Moved by Andrea, seconded by Yasmina. All those in favor, please remain silent. And it's carried. Thanks again, everybody. It's always a pleasure. Can't wait to see you in person someday.